For us, it's a daily thing.
It's every day, right?
This is Mammoth Daily
We're going to take you inside the locker room
with Mike Folta.
We want this show to be about the fans, and we want this show to be driven by our Utah Mammoth community.
And Adrian Denny.
Fans can submit what they want to hear us talk about, what they want to hear Utah weigh in on. It's all going to be here.
Here's Mike and AD with you.
Utahns, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Right here on Mammoth Daily.
It's our Tuesday Mailbag Edition of Mammoth Daily. Mike Folta and Adrian Denny, your Hockey Night in Utah radio crew. And AD, I gotta be honest with you. I thought we were going to be doing this episode, or I was going to be doing this episode from my lovely home studio. I had a good friend make one of the friends of the program make a little holder for my puck so that I could improve my setup behind me, so my puck didn't have to be askew. But no, here I am. Does this? Let me pull the curtains.
Where you at, Mike?
Does this look like Utah? Does this look like Utah out there? I don't know if the white balance is going to allow you to see anything beyond the first little bit. There we go. That's not Utah. That's not the Wasatch Front. That's not Salt Lake City.
Mike, is this road trip continuing on? Did it get extended?
There has been another game added to this road trip for the Utah Mammoth, and let me close my curtains. The game is Utah against airplanes. We are marooned. We are stranded in Ottawa for an extra day. We thought we were going to be home today. We got on the plane, and we were told to get off the plane. We had to stay the night in Ottawa. It's been tough. It's been tough, especially after a loss the other night against the Senators. I'll just tell the story. We get on the plane, like everybody's not in a great mood. It's great mood. It snowed in Ottawa, so we are we're kind of trudging through the snow a little bit to get to the bus, to get to the plane. So we know there's gonna be some de-icing on the plane, right? That's not uncommon in hockey season. But this is Ottawa. This is Canada. Like, they're prepared for this. And my radio engineer, who did a great job, Matt, as I'm leaving the arena, he's like, "Hey, there's a bunch of snow, but Ottawa never has any trouble getting flights off on time. We are always prepared for the snow and the ice, so don't worry about any potential delays." And I was like, "Okay, thanks, Matt. See you next year. See you in the finals." And what do you know? We get on the plane, and there's some de-icing, so okay, nothing crazy. But then we're sitting there, we're waiting. Dom Moore and I, our good friend on Hockey Night in Utah on the TV side, we start playing a little Michigan rummy. Dom is out ahead by a few hundred. I start mounting a glorious comeback, but we're sitting there thinking, like, gosh, this is taking a while. We've gotten our food at this point. It's like an hour and a half. We're sitting on the tarmac. And all of a sudden, the voice on the PA comes over the speakers and says, "Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for arrival." We haven't moved. We're still on the tarmac. And Sarah Merrifield, who sits behind us, goes, "Did they just say arrival?" And I look back at Sarah, and I'm like, "Sarah, they obviously didn't mean that. Like, they probably meant departure. Like, we're not arriving anywhere." And Sarah looks back at me and says, "No, I think we're going to deboard." And that's exactly what happened. And we got our stuff. We get off the plane, and we're waiting at the carousel. Get this, Adrian. We didn't go anywhere. And yet we still had to wait for our bags at the carousel because they had been loaded onto the plane. Everybody had left. All the workers had left for the night at this point. It's like 2 a.m. And finally, after like 20, 30 minutes, the bags come rolling down the carousel at baggage claim. And we all get cabs and Ubers. And I don't even know where we are right now. I'm somewhere in Ottawa's capital city. It's actually beautiful outside. I just never been here before. But yeah, it's a really tough way to end a trip. But I tell you what, I am thankful for our great staff with the Mammoth. I'm thankful for Griff, who runs our travel. He was running all over the place, making sure that everyone on the plane, which is more than just a team, that everyone had accommodations for the night and comfortable accommodations close as possible to the hotel. And just really thankful for that work that was done, but also thankful that we're in the NHL and we have these resources to be able to spend a few $1,000s on hotels for a bunch of staff members and players. Because when we were walking out of the airport, there were people who had the same thing happen to them, who were sleeping at the Ottawa airport that night. And so we're fortunate to be in the situation in the league that we're in. But that's how I come to you this morning on Mammoth Daily, road weary and in the clothes I was wearing yesterday.
So the first sign there is prepare the cabin for arrival. And you've been on a flight before where you're about ready to land in Salt Lake and they say, as we'll get ready to land in Denver, and then everybody's like, what? And the guy just made a mistake.
Yeah.
But my biggest sign there, Sarah Merrifield sensing that there was an issue. And that's probably the first person when something's going astray and she has a sense. She says it. You don't want to believe it, but you know there's probably something to it.
And again, I was in the middle of a intense rummy game between myself and Dominic Moore, and so like I heard Sarah say that, I'm like, okay, look, Sarah, I'm trying to find a Queen of Hearts in this deck somewhere. Don't need this distraction right now, but she was on it, and we disembarked in an orderly fashion, and everybody's a professional about it, but it's tough. Like I'm guessing guys got their heads on pillows at 3 a.m. and we're flying out today flying out Monday at 3 p.m. And so it kind of shoots down your whole day when you thought you were going to be in your own bed tonight. And it's even tougher for the guys that have families. But who knows, Adrian? I remember back in 2019 when the St. Louis Blues had a fight in training camp. It was Zach Sanford and Robert Bortuzzo. That was a low point in the year for the Blues. Utah's at a low point performance-wise on the ice. They've lost 5 of 6 now. They've dropped down to that second wild card spot if you're looking at standings this early in the year. And then this happens. And we couldn't help but look at each other multiple times throughout the night and think, are you kidding me? We can't get a break. We get that goal called back in the third period. Like we're creating all these scoring chances. We can't get a puck to go in. We can't get a flight back home. Like it felt like an everything going wrong when it rains, it pours moment. But I couldn't help but think like, maybe this is like what we needed. Like you hit rock bottom and you go a little bit lower and then you start to trend back upwards because you've banded together at rock bottom. And I don't know if you can call losing 5 of 6 rock bottom, but for this season, it is so far. And maybe we'll see a trend up after this nightmare travel situation.
I've got another turning point for you that just came to the top of my head. But just an odd moment that turns things around. With the Grizzlies in 2013, 2014, we went into Christmas at 7-14, 1-2. We had just been swept in 3 games out of Anchorage, Alaska. Going home for Christmas, you're just wondering what's going to transpire, and we were pretty confident that we'd get things going after Christmas because we were getting a goaltender back, Aaron Dell, who would go on to play in the NHL. But at morning skate coming out of Christmas, Jamie McQueen and Danik Paquette got in a fight at morning skate, And that was a team, Mike, that was 7-14, 1-2 at Christmas, that finished with 38 wins, 24 losses, and home ice advantage in the first round. So it's kind of a memory lane, if you will, of, interesting turning points. And stuff always goes like that after a game like that, after a trip like that. Never goes like that after you go 3-1 on the trip. But on the bright side, Mike, the Canadian Tire Center is well outside of Ottawa, in the suburbs, in the outskirts. So you're downtown Ottawa for the first time, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For those of you who aren't familiar with how Ottawa works or the travel there, you fly into the Ottawa airport, which is not even close to the city, in an industrial park, and there's basically nothing in that area. And then the rink is like another Canadian Tire Center is like another 20 minutes away. Usually we stay within walking distance to the rink when we come into an NHL city, but in Ottawa, everything is more spread out. So we never get to see downtown. I'm looking at it right now. It's pretty nice. Might take a stroll here, but I also don't want to get lost and risk any more snafus on this trip.
Mike, I got to ask you, as we come to the end of the road, 8 games out of 9, 4 games in 6 nights, 2 back-to-backs. You know me, right? I am the last person ever in life that's going to pull out an excuse, that's going to say, what if? That's going to go, but. Nothing drives me more crazy than asking somebody how they're doing at 9 a.m. in the morning and hearing, I'm tired. I just don't, it's not my thing, right? So I don't look for excuses. I'm not a what if guy. I'm not a but guy. You've been with this team, and there's been some folks that have said, AD, you're an excuse maker. You're covering me. I laid it out, Mike. I laid out road trips that Winnipeg, Florida, Boston, and New Jersey have had, just to name a few this year. Playing hot hockey, went on the road, and kind of got things handed to them. Little humbled. What'd you see as that team was going down the stretch? Because to me, it looked, from 20 plus years of being embedded in pro hockey, it looked like it had set in. And I was talking about it all week. I was saying, you had a split on this trip. That's more than acceptable with the circumstances that you're in. And I thought they looked tired. Third period in Toronto, I could tell there was fatigue. Third period in Montreal, could tell. In Ottawa, outplayed the Senators. But there were 3, 4, 5, 6 things.
Yeah.
Execution, which to me is fatigue, road weariness, that lost momentum and led to goals. Tell me, Mike, because I'm not the guy that says, how are you doing, Adrian? I'm really tired. You just got 10 hours of sleep. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying, Mike?
I know what you're saying, and 10 hours of sleep sounds great right about now. But to be honest, being around the guys, I'm not going to sit here and say they're slouching around exhausted when we're in the airport, right, or things like that. And
right,
I think you walk into the room and guys tell you they feel pretty good and they're ready to go. I think part of that is because it's early in the season, right? And so when you're in the dog days, January, February, it's a little different. You're beat down more. But I think, and we said it with this trip, and this is kind of my last couple things. I want to get to the mailbag here. But the couple things we talked about is we had this 4-game road trip, which was a lot, right? 2 back-to-backs. You have a couple days off, but those 2 back-to-backs really make things tough on you. There's an accumulation factor because we had the previous 4-game road trip. And yeah, we did have a couple days to recharge our batteries back home. But talking to everybody, broadcasters, people on the staff, like nobody can remember those 4 days at home. It just feels like we've been on the road. Like I can't even remember the Tampa Bay game. It just feels like we've been on the road, and that accumulation is starting to rear its head, or has reared its head with this group. And I think exactly what you said, the consistency is really hard to find when you're maybe not at your peak mental faculties. But I did want to share this note before we get to the mailbag. Last year, looking at teams that made the playoffs, 16 teams made the playoffs. 6 of the teams that made the postseason last year were at or below a 500 record on the road. So not quite half, but a good chunk of playoff teams last year were just 500 on the road, or even below 500, had a losing record on the road. And I bring that up to say that in the NHL, a lot of what you hear, and in pro hockey, not just the NHL, but you hear about coaches that want to go 500 on the road and win 2 out of 3 at home, and then you're in the playoffs. That will get it done more times than not. Utah is now 1 game below 500 on the road, but when you're on the road, you're just trying to hang tough. You're just trying to hold serve and stay at that, around that 500 mark, and win 2 out of 3 when you're playing at home. That's still very much like on pace for what Utah has done this year, despite the recent struggles and losing 5 out of 6. But AD, enough travel woes, enough feeling sorry for ourselves. Let's get to the mailbag here before I got a jet.
Yeah, one more thing, Mike, to wrap it up. 8 of 9 on the road, and you just went 5-4. If you told us in July, when we're unpacking the schedule on schedule release day, you go 5-4 on that stretch of 8 of 9 on the road against those 2 teams, we're cashing out and we're moving on to Wednesday night immediately against Buffalo. Tuesday Mailbag coming up next on Mammoth Daily.
Looks like the mail's here. Time for the Mammoth Mailbag.
Time for one of our favorite segments of the week. It's our Tuesday Mailbag. We have some submissions from the herd, from all you day-to-dayers out there. AD, what do we got first?
Let's start with this one coming in. It comes to us from Brandon, and he says, how long until we see Boot get a call-up?
That's not Boot.
If our offense stays so stagnant. Minor typo for those of you on YouTube. Minor typo.
There's only one T in Boots. Come on now, guys. That's a good question. Last we checked, Daniil But had 7 goals to lead all AHL rookies, had a hat trick and an overtime winner the other night, playing with the Tucson Roadrunners. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing some of his action. AD, I haven't been watching the games in Tucson. I've just been reading the box scores and seeing the highlights. We knew that he had an elite shot. We saw that in preseason. We saw that in camp. We knew that he has a lot of skill for a big guy. We knew that he's tough to play against. There's a lot of things that we knew. I'm curious, and I would love to talk with the Tucson people about this, the other parts of his game, his work away from the puck, his work defensively, and maybe the smaller minutia of what it takes to be an NHL player. I wonder how that is coming along, and I don't know if you've heard anything.
I'll give you one potential thing we're still working on in the American Hockey League with Daniil But, Mike, because the numbers, 13 points in 12 games. Had the hat trick on Saturday with 2 power play goals and a 3-on-3 goal in overtime. So that's one thing, that the skill plays. In Utah, it's going to be a 3rd or 4th line role to start. He's not going to be out there in those situations. But I'll take you back into another day of the life scenario, Mike. Friday night, I went with my niece and some family to East High School's production of Shrek, a bilingual performance, and it was a great show. And so we get out of the play and took my niece home and starting to get back settled for the evening, and I pop open my AHL app. Roadrunners had been trailing throughout the night. It was 3-0. They made it 3-2, and it's getting late. And a couple minutes left, I pop open the box score, and Daniil But took a penalty with 2 minutes left in the game. And I'm thinking, that's an AHL play. That can't happen in the NHL. We remember Logan Cooley taking a slash against Anaheim last year in December and how that went over. Didn't play for the rest of the night. So that was my thing, Mike, that does not happen in the National Hockey League. And would Daniil But be out there with 2 minutes left to go in the game in the NHL?
Yeah.
Probably not, but to me, that was something that really soured my evening. As Coachella Valley immediately got an empty net goal, but in the flow of a game, that is just something that can't happen. And Mike, as you know from being in the ECHL and the AHL, you see that stuff happen all the time. 3, 4, 5 minutes left in a game, you're down by 1, penalty, momentum's gone. We don't see that in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why those guys are down there. And I think along with that point, to add in the other side of it, Utah's bottom 6 has been really good for the most part. And I don't see Utah's issues right now as personnel issues. I see them as more internal issues with the group that exists that exists on the roster currently. If things get worse, and maybe you have to make a change, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think right now, like you look at the third line, you're not touching that. You're looking at the top 6. Who are you taking out of the top 6? And then if you're looking at the fourth line, can Daniil But give you good fourth line minutes? Because what you're looking for out of a fourth line is a line to go out there, create energy, and not take penalties and not put you on the penalty kill. And if he still has to learn that part of the game, if there's still some inconsistencies with how he handles situations, how he thinks the game a little bit at this level, then it's just better for him to continue to dominate and learn those situations in the AHL. But a good question, and thank you for submitting.
Yeah, couple more thoughts on that, Mike. I some case studies, and this is completely different because these players were recalled to the NHL as part of the rebuild, right? This team isn't in a rebuild. We've talked about we're certainly not developing players in the NHL at this point, but
yeah,
Dylan Guenther went down to Tucson, kind of like Daniil But. He expected to make the team. He didn't go. He was there for half of a season. He got recalled in mid-January because Jason Zucker got suspended for 3 games. And the feeling was Dylan was going to go play 3 games. They were going to take the temperature and send it back to Tucson. And had 2 points in the first game, dominated, stayed there. But if it wasn't for that 3-game suspension and the Coyotes didn't have the depth that Utah does, he wouldn't have been recalled in that moment. Bill Armstrong's made the example. Maverick Lamoureux was recalled in October last year because of the depth. And I think the organization was kind of uncomfortable in the position they put him in, but really didn't have any other options. So JJ Moser was a guy that started in the AHL, played 2 months there, and again, Coyotes needed a D, called him up, but the need for Utah is going to be where this comes into question here. And as you said, you're not changing third and fourth lines right now. They've been your top 2 lines, and you're not scratching anybody to make a statement in your top 6, right? So I understand you see the numbers, you see how he's playing, but for me, we got to keep moving forward and make sure there's not any more penalties in the final 2 minutes, because that really ruined my night to see that.
Well, and 90% of players in the NHL have spent time in the American Hockey League at some point. So again, we've said this a bunch, but it is not a bad thing. It's a good thing that Daniil But at 20 years old is down there and is helping the Tucson Roadrunners.
All right, let's get to our next one. We've got some good stuff that came in after the game, and here's Rod. And I thought this was really good. He says, The Mammoth have played 11 road games so far this year. They only played 11 road games from January 30th through the end of the season. It's rough now, but it flips at the end of the year. And Mike, you remember what happened when the clock turned to February last year. Mammoth went 17-9-3 to finish it off. And as you talked about home record versus away record, I thought that was a very astute point with some concrete backup from Rod, who always has great stuff for us here on Mammoth Daily.
Yeah, hot Rod coming in. Thanks, Rod. 60% of the games in the first half on the road. That means 60% of the games in the second half are going to be at home. And 60% doesn't sound like that big of a split, but that makes a huge difference. And that's kind of what we're feeling. That's what we're feeling right now. 11 back-to-backs for this team, Adrian. 7 of them come before Christmas, which is not even the halfway point of the season, technically. We look at it that way a lot, but it's not. Halfway point is later in January. And so you have 7 back-to-backs like condensed in this first part of the season. And then once we get later into the longer stretch of the year, Utah only has 4 back-to-backs. So the schedule really opens up, and then there's more home games for this team as well. So the schedule is definitely, it helps Utah coming down the stretch. Mammoths just need to make sure that they're in a position to capitalize on that and not play themselves out of contention here.
Right now, Mike, in the Western Conference playoff picture, 4 teams are in it that weren't in it last year in Utah, Anaheim, Seattle, and
how about the Ducks?
Yeah.
I love the moves.
They've got a 7-game winning streak.
I love the moves that they made. Granlund, Kreider, you bring in Quenneville, but I didn't expect this. I didn't expect them to be beating Vegas and leading the Pacific Division. I mean, Colorado's only lost once in regulation. The West is going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun. And Mammoth, we're in the thick of it. Now you're kind of fighting uphill a little bit during this stretch. But this is like a NASCAR race. You've got like 3 rows of 3 all kind of in the mix. One guy slips back, and then the next guy shoots up there on the inside track. It could be anybody in that top half.
Yeah, Chicago, Seattle, Utah, and Anaheim, the 4 teams that are in the playoff picture now.
Blackhawks.
Yeah, Blackhawks. San Jose has a winning record. Edmonton's 500, so it's getting a little congested there in the Western Conference. And again, Utah's played the most road games, fewest home games. We got to get Mike back home to Salt Lake, so we'll fly through these final questions here on our Tuesday mailbag. We all felt the momentum die when they reversed that goal. The power play needs some work, and I thought that was a good point from Weston coming in here, Mike. And we've got a cut from head coach Andre Tourney on facing adversity and how you respond to it, because you hate when something happens in a game that doesn't go your way, that you think should have, and then 2 minutes later, puck's in the back of the net, and a game that looked like it was 3-3 was 4-2. Here's Bear on just kind of the adversity that Utah faced and how they responded to it.
Yeah, it had a lot of impact, but, that adversity, it's adversity, and we need to keep our composure and keep pushing through. And, right now there's always something happen. We're in that kind of a sequence where they score from behind the net, and Montreal here tonight, they find a way to, even if we had a good momentum in the game, to score a big goal. So we need to just find a way to be mentally strong and find a way to push the car.
Yeah. There's no other way to say it. Utah's fighting it right now, and I think that's what Bear was saying. Even when Utah's playing well, the other team's finding a way to get a goal, and there's just that one small breakdown, and that's been the result the last 6 games, only winning one of those last 6. And I felt the wind go out of Utah's sails too, Weston, when that goal was reversed, and Adrian, can I pull you over to the good side on this? Do you still think that was the right call? Talking with Matt and Dom, they were adamant it was the right call. Dom saying it from a perspective of that's not pass interference. That's just contact you have to play through. It's part of the game. You can't. You have to let the goalie play the position, but the goalie has to play the position. The goalie has to get back to his skates. I don't want to relitigate this again, but I'm just curious if you've changed your stance or if you're still standing strong.
I told you I watched it the entire third period. And then when you, Matt, and Dom did your morning after and, gave your thoughts on it, I could see it. I can tell you why it was ruled goaltender interference, because the initial contact with the goalie was so dramatic. They see that. That's what got the call made. The initial contact. Your points of the recovery, I totally see it. But looking at it from an overhead view, the contact, the referees could not live with the dramatic contact with the goalie.
Dramatic.
And that's why they made the call.
He nudged him, and then he moved to the right. All right. Next mailbag here. The goal's not going back.
All right, let's get to some happy thoughts here, Mike.
Yeah.
Here is Dog Who Films coming in. He says, I'd like to ask the team, does it feel like you're finally being treated like the professional athletes you are? And if so, can you go in depth about what exactly you've noticed and enjoyed the most? And Mike, we get this every day. Questions to the players on, just the atmosphere, the training facility, the arena, the fans, how they're treated by management, how they're treated by ownership. So I got a quick snippet here. One from JJ Peterka, one from Logan Cooley. Just wanted to get to the question there from Doggy.
It's been stunning. I think just like you said, the practice facility is top notch. They provide us with everything there. So just kind of enjoying it every day.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's super cool to see. Even to this day, you see a little kid with your jersey on, and you get that excitement. I remember when I was their age, going to games wearing Crosby jersey, Ovechkin jersey, anything like that. You're trying to be those guys, and it's cool that I could kind of be a role model for them, and kind of show them a way that there is a path to this game as long as you work hard and pretty much dedicate your whole life to it. And the Delta Center, it's an unbelievable spot to play. Just the fans, you go out for warm-ups and the whole place is basically filled already. So it's such a cool experience, and something why I truly wanted to be here for a while. And like I said, I love it here. I love the fans, living here, the area. It's truly a great spot.
If you didn't miss Logan Cooley, or if you didn't catch Logan Cooley on the Nashcast with Mike and Tyson last week, check that out. It was a great episode, 30 plus minutes. Great Nash crash with brother and sister. It's a lot of fun. Great job by you guys.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. You kind of get that family feel from those guys. But do we have any more, AD? It's been a good mailbag so far. Is the mailbox
good?
Empty? All right.
Mailbox is never empty, but we're out of time, Mike, because we've got to get to more food talk. We got another great Mammoth Birthday Cake we want to talk about when we continue. Third period next, right here on Mammoth Daily.
This is Mammoth Daily.
Wrapping things up on Mammoth Daily here on your Tuesday. A couple weeks ago, we had a great birthday cake from Brandon. It was that money cake themed with all of your Mammoth looks and feels, with the tusks and the mountain blue and lots of money involved. Well, Skylar just had a birthday, and we take a look at this birthday cake. 41 years old, and look at that frosting. That is what I'm talking about. Happy birthday, Skylar. Looks like a white cake, maybe white frosting, purple with the decor on the outside. That's the way to celebrate a birthday, with a Mammoth birthday cake. Folks, send us your Mammoth food items at 801 Adrian Denny on Twitter, on X, at Mike_Folta. You can leave your comments in YouTube. Let us know what's up. Send your food our way. More mailbag questions, Tuesday Mailbag coming up next week. You can submit your questions all week long. We'll take them, put them in the queue, and answer them here on Mammoth Daily. Coming up on your Wednesday, it's a game day. We're back at Delta Center. Mammoth and Sabres. We'll have JJ Peterka in the odd man rush as well. Thanks to Mike for joining us on his way out of Ottawa. Thanks to you for checking in, and we'll talk to you for your odd man rush coming up tomorrow right here on Mammoth Daily.